So, as you can see, we have everyone here but Ms. Grant for attendance. The approval for minutes for February 10th, 2022. Is there any motion for that? Mr. Moore?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Klett, seconds. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. There's no old or unfinished business, so we will move on to the new business. Case number 220308 for 28096 Woodward Avenue. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
Yes, this site is located on the east side of Woodward. It's just north of Catalpa. It contains a single-tenant building that's located in the general business zoning district, and it has a gross floor area of about 5,820 square feet. It was most recently occupied by a showroom and a storage area for a flooring company. And the petitioner proposes to convert the interior to 16 individual kitchen suites, and I'll refer to their floor plan. The suites would be rented to individual entrepreneurs. There's a common lobby, as you can see, off of the Woodward entrance. And the suites would be available for rent. They're approximately 200 square feet in size, each of them. And they have a common corridor off the back and storage areas and location for refuse. And anyone that's coming to the site, whether that's a customer or a third-party service, they would come to the front lobby from the Woodward entrance to pick up the food. It does not have any seating. And as you can tell, the building encompasses the entire property. There's absolutely no off-street parking on this site at all. All the parking spaces are in the adjacent Michigan Department of Transportation right away on Woodward Avenue. In 1970, the board granted a variance to construct an addition for the purposes of a hardware store. And since then, staff has administratively approved a variety of uses similar in nature of parking count. More recently, it was used as for mattress sales prior to the flooring wholesaler. And the required parking for that type of use is one parking space for 800 square feet of floor area. So the prior use required 7 off-street parking spaces. Obviously, the site doesn't have any parking. So staff would be capable of signing off on uses that have a similar required amount of off-street parking. So the site is essentially given that credit of 7 spaces, even though there isn't a single space on site. And the petitioner's proposal has about 4,000 square feet of area. We require 1 parking space for 200 square feet of their use, which we defined as a carryout restaurant. All told, the 16 individual kitchens, but we counted it as essentially as a carryout restaurant since there is no seating. They're required to have a total of 20 parking spaces. If we take away the credit of 7, they're left with seeking a variance of that difference, or 13 parking spaces, and that's why they're here tonight. We did receive 6 written comments, which are included in your report for your review, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any questions for, yes, Mr. Reddy?
Yeah, I have a question. I think there is not an answer to this, but my concern is that it's parallel parking there, and given the volume of people coming and going, that it might back up onto Woodward because people will be backing out of spot and pulling it.
I was going to say, is that questions right now?
Yes.
Okay.
So the question that I'm coming to is, does staff have any sort of volume over time based on geographic sections of parking? I think maybe not.
Oh, we don't. No, we don't.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Klett?
Yeah, one quick question. The adjacent streets, it looks like Vincetta is permit parking only.
But I can't tell if Bassett Road is permit only. I didn't see any signs up. Do you know, Mr. Murphy, by any chance, if
I
Bassett?
don't know off the top of my head, and I probably should have anticipated that question and looked it up in advance. But I think we can do probably a quick
I'm
Google
doing that
Street
right
View,
now.
and I'm sure that the residents that live nearby will be able to tell us as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, did I say
So that was
right?
my same
Okay.
question.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, is the petitioner present? If so, please come forward and state your name.
Good evening.
Yep.
My name is Trevor Shaver. So the summary that was provided was pretty comprehensive and spot on as to what our proposed plan for this is. And just to go into that a little bit more, there will be 16 individual kitchen suites along with back of house space, storage, refuse, utility rooms, bathrooms, and then a front lobby. Our intention for this use is, over the last 2 years, obviously, restaurant and retail industry has been completely upended. This is a plan to provide restaurateurs and food operators and food entrepreneurs with a capital light solution to opening or expanding their business. We will outfit the space with a ventilation hood, sinks, and again, the necessary back of house space. Any operator that chooses to come into the space will bring in their own cooking equipment, range, deep fryer, whatever it may be. So the way the operations at the facility would work is somebody would place an order through a online food ordering platform, Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash. That order would get run through our facility, back to the kitchen. They prepare the order, and then a driver would come pick up that order. There is also the ability to do pickup by the customer directly, but as you pointed out, there is no dine-in. This is not a real customer-facing facility. It's more for just simple carry-out restaurant. As you see, the intention is to have drivers pull up. Every time I've been there, it is not parallel parking, but diagonal parking, one-way access in and out to answer your question.
Okay, that's not what it was when I had gone by.
Okay, the faded stripes that are on the street are painted in a diagonal pattern. Whether or not somebody parks that way, was parking that way when you were there is, another. Again, like I said, as you can see, parked like that, but there are stripes diagonally. So as I mentioned, this is in hopes of giving restaurateurs a new chance to expand and open their business without having to pay the prices to open a new brick and mortar and the overhead that's associated with that. And by repurposing, retail assets such as this, we are hoping to kind of revitalize areas that have faced vacancy. As you can see, and as some people may know, this strip here on this block has suffered, a good amount of vacancy over the last 2 years. This property has been vacant for the last 2 years, as have 3 of the other 5 suites on this block. Retail along the Woodward Ave corridor from 2016 to 21 has dropped from 95.5% to just under 90%. And with online retailers and retail generally trending in a downward direction, it is not, looking great for boxes of this size to be released to similar uses. So that's kind of part of our business plan, is to come in and come up with a creative use for this space. Again, as I mentioned, the only other option for these spaces to be reoccupied would be for a similar use, or with the hopes of waiting around for a developer to come, and demolish some of the buildings and build something new here that does comply with parking requirements. This is not the only space along Woodward Avenue that faces these parking challenges. There's a number that do have to deal with similar parking along Woodward, and I don't think that this, while we are asking for a reduction of 13 spaces, I don't think that this is something that is really out of the ordinary or something that has been granted in the past. Going back through prior Royal Oak meeting minutes, parking variances along Woodward have been granted for similar, if not more amounts, some less amounts, but we think that in a hope to revitalize, this strip here and, turn around some of the vacancy while also providing these food entrepreneurs a opportunity to expand and grow their business, that this request for a variance is something that the staff should consider seriously.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Is there any question? Mr. Moore? And then we'll go over there.
At the time that, excuse me, that you submitted your materials, you said that you're anticipating 14 kitchens could be in operation at any given time, and that you were looking into securing additional off-site parking spaces. Have you made any progress on that?
We called every property owner that had a parking lot a mile up and a mile down on Woodward Ave, and nobody was receptive to leasing parking spaces. Our first hope was the medical office building across the street that has a fairly large lot that every time I've been is semi-occupied. However, it just changed hands and the new owner was not receptive to that. But to the first part of your question, yes, based on other operating facilities we have in the Midwest, 85% is standard stabilized occupancy.
So if you have 7 spaces and 14 kitchens, maybe that would be 14 people. Where's everybody going to park then?
They would have to park along Woodward Avenue, and this is kind of what I was alluding to, is that this is not uncommon for this corridor. There are very similar strip retail centers that have 1-2 spaces in the rear, and based on their uses would require 15-20 spaces.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Clatt and then Ms. Zukin.
I have the same question. Thank you.
Okay. Ms.
Yeah,
Zukin?
that was pretty much my question, but there could be as many as 16 operating kitchens, plus people coming to each one of them at the same time to pick up food.
Yes, at a complete max occupancy, yes, that is a scenario. Again, like I said, we don't typically see 100% occupancy in our facilities. We would have a staff of 2 facility staff members, so you are looking at 18 to 20 max for staff there, and then the pickup process, as I outlined in my submission, is very quick. A driver gets a notification, they show up, park, walk in, scan a QR code, deliver's handed to them, they're out. It's usually a 2-minute process.
Ms. George?
So based on your property overview and the proposal, it looks like you said there would be 16 commercial grade kitchens, at least space for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you said at minimum to peak times would be 3 to 6 orders per hour per kitchen, so that would be about 48 to 96 orders total for the whole strip. And if there's 2-minute parking time, that's 30 parkers per hour times 7 spaces. We have 210 parkers per hour. So at maximum, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just having trouble figuring out if that's reasonable, 210 parkers per hour to 48 to 96 orders per hour. Plus, that's not even staff.
But again, those parkers are there for 1 to 2 minutes,
Sure.
in, out, and if you look at the 7 spaces across directly in front of the building, just using that, I know they're not our spaces, but using that as a just a reference, they're there. Those spaces will be occupied 30 to 45 minutes of an hour.
I understand. I just wonder how it really will play out practically, because if there's a bottleneck or a queue of parkers, now do we have people lined up actually on Woodward Avenue? Where does the overflow go?
I don't think there really would be any overflow with, like I said, with 30 to 45 minutes of that hour being utilized. But, and again, while this car is parked here parallel, it is diagonal parking, one way in, one way out, and you would hope that people would not stop. Normal, sane people would not stop in the middle of this, blocking traffic. Obviously, I can't stand there myself and tell people not to do that, but the hope is that, given the data we have from our other facilities in the Midwest, that these spaces in front of the property would not remain occupied for more than 45 minutes of an hour.
So have you built this same model other places?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Will you be restriping that parking area to indicate that
That's
is
absolutely something that we would
angled spot?
I know it's MDOT, but I would be more than happy to ensure that the parking is orderly and people don't do this.
Thanks.
Ms. Robinson, and then Mr. Gavin, and then Mr. Reddy.
Where, you said you built this model in other places. Where, can you give me an example?
Yes, we have one operating in Cleveland, Columbus, Memphis, Minneapolis, and are also in for permits in downtown Detroit, and as well as Milwaukee and Kansas City.
Are these pretty urban downtown kind of areas? Or?
Milwaukee is in the heart of downtown. Cleveland is in Midtown. Yeah, they're very urban areas.
Thank you.
And
Mr. Gavin, then Mr. Reddy.
Will you have a rule that staff aren't allowed to park in
Yes.
front of the building so
Yes.
that the delivery drivers wouldn't
that would
clog up?
be, yes, that would be enacted by I mentioned we had 2 facility staff. It's a site supervisor and a facility manager. And upon onboarding these operators, we will mark these spaces as, again, they're not our spaces, but note with a sign of some sort that pick up only short-term parking, just to keep these spaces clear as to, allude to Ms. George's concern.
Mr. Reddy.
Well, I guess this kind of leads to my question. If they're not your spaces, can you put signage like that?
My intent would be to, I will work with MDOT to try and get a loading zone or a short-term parking, because again, not only from...
Oh, okay. But you would
Yeah,
need,
yes,
you would need their
that would be my
permission.
intent, yeah.
Because have you been monitoring the usage of those spots? Have you been just checking to see
Yeah.
how they are used right now?
Yeah, every time I've been there, these spaces have looked like this. It's not...
Except there's been more cars, right?
No.
Oh,
very,
because when I've gone, it's been full. And I think maybe it's cruising here, but...
Every time I've been, there's never been more than 3 or 4 cars.
What time of day have you been going?
Any morning and evening, and I've been pretty much any hour of the
evening,
day.
it's been...
Okay.
That's not the
It's been
cruising.
full. Okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner? I have one at least. Do you know what your hours of operations that you're intent on having this being, since you are going to be staffing it?
The hours of operation for the kitchens will be usually 8 to midnight. We have not filed anything for that, but that's what we see at other facilities.
Okay, so it's not like it would be all breakfast and lunch. It could be all times of the day. Therefore, it could be competing with everyone around it. Okay.
Yes. Generally, we see less breakfast. It's usually a higher lunch and dinner staffing from the kitchens, but they will have access, during those hours. And then we kind of close it down for cleaning overnight.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, just to let you know, we're down 1 member. You need 5 affirmative votes to proceed. Think about it. After public commentary, you'll have to let us know whether or not to proceed or to hold off next month to see if you might have a full board at that time.
Okay.
Which is not guaranteed.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll open up to public comment. Please keep your come forward. You can state your name, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Good evening. Greg Keys, 1812 Bassett Road. I have written a rather lengthy letter to you. I would suppose all of you have read it and gone over all of my objections to granting this variance. Again, I heard some comments made. I believe a lot of the points are being missed completely. 16 kitchens gives us a minimum of 16 employees plus some other staff. That wipes out all parking right away. That's gone. Living on Bassett Road 36 years, I've seen the comings and goings. You are all familiar with a restaurant that is on Woodward Avenue right now. The name of that restaurant is Cruise and Muir. They have an excessive amount of parking. Those patrons and employees are parking on Bassett Road, which is not by permit. No way in hell are we going to allow permit parking on Bassett Road as a compromise was made for Vincetta. You're all very aware of Vincetta Grill and the problems that have been entailed there. Do not wish to get into anything like that. Again, too, you have other businesses that are up and down, people that own these vacant properties that you've also received letters. They cannot get parking if this excessive parking is going to be detrimental to them. I'm worried about the safety issues of people coming and going. You have drivers that will be doing, whether it's DoorDash or anything else. Again, too, some of these individuals, whether warranted or not, are not exactly known for being slow in their delivery times. Again, too, with the people coming and going, I do believe you're going to have an excess amount of traffic at specific times. Yes, lunchtime will be very busy. Dinner time will be very busy. A question or two of me?
No, I was just saying you had about a minute left.
Okay. Again, too, I have very specifically listed all of my grievances, if you want to list them that way, because of the fact that we had to live through all of the problems that arose in parking with Cruise and Muir, and those are still an overflow issue. I don't even come close to agreeing with these gentlemen. I think it's a great concept, not in this location. It's just an issue where by the time you include just the employee parking alone, I don't care where in the hell they park, they're going to be parking in an area where it's going to cause issues. And again, I know they're going to unfortunately park on a lot of the side streets, and that's going to cause a real issue up and back. Okay? Again, I think this is a very poor idea to grant them this variance. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next person, or anyone else? Last call. Anyone else want to? Nope. Okay, then we'll bring it back to this side of the board. Would you like us to proceed?
Please.
Okay. Then in which case, motion or comments? Mr. Reddy.
Well, I have several concerns. Just the parking for staff hasn't been addressed. There's already overflow traffic there. Even if they're diagonal spots, when people pull back out of the diagonal, the traffic is blocked. So it's not like you have, it's kind of like when you're boarding a plane. There's plenty of seats for everyone, but if everyone can't get to them until it's clear. So I'm worried that there would be traffic backed up on Woodward. I'm worried that traffic would flow into the neighborhoods. So that's just my concern.
Ms. George.
To piggyback off that, I've been to that strip, and I just feel like it's hard to park diagonally to get in and to get out. So that's why people are parking parallel, and I just feel like I've seen, there are some of those strips on Woodward where people are parking diagonally, and every time you try to get in and out, you wonder if you're going to hit another car or end up with, part of your car out on Woodward. You're up on a curb. So parking diagonally in these small areas isn't ideal in the first place. They're not big enough. So I don't know that people are going to adhere to that diagonal parking, or that it's going to practically work out very smoothly.
Mr. Gavin.
I echo a lot of the same concerns, and I think for that motion, or for that reason, I'm going to make a motion to deny the variances as requested.
All right, is there a second? Mr. Reddy seconds. Go ahead, Mr. Gavin.
I don't think I need to, it's all been well said. I think it's going to cause a detriment to the neighborhood, because I think the staff and drivers will be parking on neighborhood streets. I think it's a great concept and use for that space, but I think it will just, granting the variance would provide too much harm to the neighborhood and to neighboring businesses, and it wouldn't be an appropriate variance to grant for that reason. So,
Mr. Reddy?
Yeah, I agree. And I would also just like to say I do love the idea, and I wish that we could have 16 new restaurants. That'd be great. It's just the parking isn't secured yet. So.
Mr. Clatt?
Yeah, I think if additional off-street parking could have been secured, it might be a different story, but it's not available.
Mr. Moore?
I agree. I would have been more comfortable if there were arrangements for at least the employees that were in there working. I mean, the 7 spots might have been enough for coming and going of delivery drivers, but I just don't see where the staff would even park.
Okay. Ms. Moore?
Me?
Yeah. Or sorry, Ms. George.
That's all right.
Just talk to Ms.
No
Moore.
problem. I mean, this strip is decrepit. I would love for something to be developed there, but it's going to cause problems around the neighborhood as planned.
Any other comments? All right, I also agree what has been stated so far. I think this is a great concept. I unfortunately feel it's in the wrong location along Woodward. There could be other locations might better suited for this that have a little bit more parking, or getting parking confirmed at some other nearby site for staff would have helped, considering we had another spot in the same strip come before us, I think over a year ago, asking for even less parking, and in that case, for that condition, we had a hard enough time trying to find that. I feel that this unfortunately would unreasonably prevent the adjacent owners from using the parking along there by having so much more parking needed for it. So it would not do substantial justice to the other property owners around there, even though it would make this building a lot nicer. And unfortunately, this plight is due to the unique circumstance of this property and having so little amount of parking that they're needing this extra variance, and there's just no helping get extra additional parking from somewhere else. So unfortunately, this hardship, which has been created by them coming before us, if it would have been a different property, whether a retail or not, they wouldn't have that additional hardship of having so many more parking. So because of all these things, I'd have to also agree with the motion. Yes.
Mr. Elphick, it sounds like the board might vote soon. If a member of the board could maybe address the requirements for a non-use variance. I don't think that's been fully addressed yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I can walk through. So with respect to the non-use variance requirements, regarding the chapter's restrictions unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose. In one respect, I could see that being an issue because there is actually no parking on that property because it's all there's alley and then there's spot out front. However, there have been 7 variances already granted for that, so there is some leeway there. So I think that accommodation has already been made for that property, so I don't think that factor would apply. The variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to the other property owners in the district. With respect to that one, it definitely would serve the purpose of the applicant and do them substantial justice, but weighing that against the injustice, I think, to the neighboring property owners and the local neighborhood, I think the balance there lies more in favor of the neighboring property owners. And a lesser relaxation than that requested would not give substantial relief to the property or be more consistent with justice to the property owners. I don't think they could ask for much less for that property. So, going lower wouldn't serve the purpose because they still have the need for all of those spots. And it wouldn't help any of the neighboring property owners because the number of people that are going to be there they're going to be there. The plight of the landowner is due to unique circumstances of the property. That is true. It is a very unique property. There is, like I said, no parking whatsoever on that property. And then third, the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. That one goes against the petitioner in that they're proposing this use that would increase the amount of parking needed over and above what has already been allowed for that spot.
All right, thank you. Is there any other comments? All right, we move to vote. Please signify by saying aye and raising your hands if you're in favor of the motion, which is to deny the variance. All in favor? Yes. Or all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so we'll move on to the next case. Case number 220309, 832 North Pleasant Street. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This site's located at the corner of North Pleasant and Upton. It's shown on the screen, and I'll hover over it. It's kind of a pie-shaped lot, and it contains a one-story single-family home with an attached garage. And the petitioner is proposing to demolish the existing garage and construct ground floor additions to the house and a new attached garage with second-story living space. I'm going to jump over to their drawings to give a better understanding. So this is the vantage point from that corner. You can see that the second-story living space above the garage, the attached garage, it's accessible from the ground floor of the one-story home. And I'll look to their site plan, survey rather, to illustrate that this is the side street Upton, and we apply a front yard setback along Pleasant, a minimum side yard setback of 10 feet along Upton, and we require a 35-foot setback from that rear property line. So an attached garage, or detached garage for that matter, are allowed to be within that minimum required 35-foot setback because that's measuring to the nearest point of living space. And on the second floor of the attached garage, there is living space within that required 35-foot rear yard setback. So the petitioner is here to seek a variance from that standard. And staff did apply the height requirement for a detached garage to the proposal, simply because the only two-story portion of this building is the portion above the garage. If some petitioners have a sharp enough memory, you may recall there was a proposal several months ago to do renovations to a house. That house had a full second story, and it had an attached garage with a full second story. But the only way to get to the second story of the garage was from the ground floor and up. And we applied the height standard of a garage to that as well. This is mildly similar in the configuration that the only way to get to that second story living space above the detached garage is from the ground floor of the home, and there is no continuous second floor space above the entire thing. So just another variance request associated with what the petitioner is trying to achieve.
Ms. Sukin?
So you're treating it as a garage for height purposes, but not as a garage for the setback?
Correct. If the garage did not have any living space above it, it would be allowed to project into that 35-foot setback. Actually, even be allowed to go as close to 5 feet from the property line. It would have to have a differentiated and lower roof line.
Mr. Moore?
So similar to what the circumstance is now. And I'll show you the photograph as we go to the next question.
Is the fact that it's attached with a breezeway the reason that it's not being considered a secondary dwelling unit as far as like combination of utilities and that type of a thing?
Correct. It's not a separate unit. We'll go to the floor plan. That's the photograph of the existing circumstance, and I'll page down to the petitioner's floor plan, which is extremely helpful to explain that particular question. So what you see on the screen in front of you, the right-hand side of the screen is the illustration of the attached garage, and the ground floor there is a mudroom, and it leads to a staircase. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the petitioner's second floor plan. And again, that's just the space above the attached garage. And that portion of the structure is only accessible from the ground floor, from that mudroom. There's no separation between the mudroom and the living room. It's free-flowing. It doesn't have a separate kitchen, separate living space. So it's part of the overall structure. It's not separate in its design.
Okay, thanks.
Did you have a question?
I know that's been a hot topic lately.
Thought I saw
It has.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, if the petitioner is present, would like to come forward to present.
Looks a lot different on the TV. Thanks for seeing me. My name's Mike C. I'm here with my wife Tabitha and our daughter Scarlett. We've been here about 17 years. This has been our home. It's our first home after we got married. And we're at the point where we need to expand and get more than 2 bedrooms. We used to be foster parents. It worked real well when Scarlett was 6 years old and 7 years old and 8 years old, when she could share a room with another kid. Especially the boys, there was rules on that, but as you can see, I blunk, and that was my mistake, and now I've got a preteen. So we've been thinking about re-engaging foster care, and to do that, we definitely need a 3rd bedroom. And of course, this increase of me working from home has really been an added complication. So these are kind of the impetuses behind us wanting to look at, do we move, which we don't want to do because we love our neighbors, we've been here, we're kind of had the intention of staying here for the rest of our lives. So when we looked at building the house and doing it here, I was trying to figure out the least, obviously there's a budget that we have to think about, I have to do that for myself, and this is the least, this is the most budget conscious way because it's new construction essentially. I just have to tear down this old garage and rebuild this new structure, as opposed to all the complications which you've all read. It's not as much of a concern for you, of course, but when I started thinking about then I started thinking about my neighbors, okay? To the north of me, we're like Mr. Murphy very eloquently said, we're a 1-story ranch. To the north of me, I've got another 1-story ranch, and then to the north of that, another 1-story ranch on North Pleasant. And then on this side yard over here, which really feels like that's a really, I like that he called it a pie-shaped property, because that's actually part of the problem too, is that we have a very wonky shaped property. It's unique, makes it kind of cool, but it also lends to a very awkward situation. When you come up to our property and pull in the driveway, that's actually our side yard, but it really feels like an extension of our front yard. So it's really easy to look at the right of that, which is technically our rear yard, and make it gets really confusing on where the property lines are. Because we've treated all as, because it's not exactly a 90-degree corner there, it's kind of a bend. And so all of that's kind of our front yard, so pulling all up, so we were kind of, when I really first thought through this, I had the idea of, let's keep it low and keep the roof lines low so it matches the 1-story houses to the north, and maybe build over the garage, because it's right next to a couple of other neighbors, and they have 2-story houses. So I kind of felt that that might blend in a little bit better. So that was kind of the thought process there. Until one day I woke up and I realized that's not my rear yard, that's not my side yard, that's my rear yard with my neighbor Eric and his wife, Jenna. So we started talking to our neighbors, and I wanted to get their thoughts on this. I really wasn't sure how this goes. I've never done this before. I would think that something on your mind is, setting precedents. Obviously our property, it is an odd-shaped lot, but also making sure, to me, I want to make sure my neighbors were on board with it. So I started meeting with them one by one and sharing with them what we want to do. Building above the garage, like you said, there's a height. I never even knew about that until Mr. Murphy brought that up. Because I know there's houses with rooms above the garage all the time, but I just didn't know all the nuances of that, of those rules. But I certainly wanted to make sure this is the least obtrusive and most kind of consistent with our neighbors as possible. Our garage is actually, it's a slab. That living room is a slab, so that's actually almost 2 feet lower than building above the rest of the house, having this big dormer and all that kind of thing over the primer house. So I was trying to just keep in line with my neighbors, keep the addition as low as possible. We're not looking for, that garage is like 600 square feet. I don't need a 600 square foot bedroom up there. We just need a third bedroom where we can work and do some things. So if you look at a floor plan, you'll notice we're not developing all the square feet of that. I don't want to heat it all, we don't want to cool it all, we just needed a third bedroom. So the garage is of course useful to us, we use it a lot. I'm kind of a woodworker, so having the garage space is very helpful. But we didn't need all that square footage upstairs. So that's why the roof pitch, we just figured just make the roof pitch a little higher, so we had enough headroom up there, create a dormer, and have enough room for a bedroom up there, a third bedroom that's practical. I did do some due diligence. I didn't know what you would need, so that was the things that I did. I met with my neighbors and made sure that, I think you saw, several of them signed an affidavit. I just thought that would be helpful because I wanted you to know I actually showed them all these drawings. I wanted to get their feelings about it. Some of them really like the idea that I'm trying to do craftsman style and, you know, tight reveal siding and things like that. But I also know that there's other things like DTE energy. There is an easement back there, and I wanted to make sure I was within those. So I wanted, before this meeting, I actually contacted Kim, I think her name's Tassin, and she put me in contact with Lisa Jones, who happens to be a field agent. She came out, took pictures. She was actually, coincidentally, the same person who helped us replace the utility pole back there. And because we buried our service just to make things convenient. And I have a neighbor right behind me that actually wants to tap into that himself. He's got a lot of lions over his backyard, and so that's kind of convenient. But at the same time, she told us that the setback there is about, they need 6.5 feet. So the point is, I'm just trying to check off my mind everything that you need to make this as easy for you. But yeah, the summary is basically we need a third bedroom. We want to resume foster care. I can't have kids sharing a room. I definitely need to start, I got to continue working from home, and it's been just a disaster the last couple of years, as you can imagine. Especially when I have confidential meetings. I'm a financial advisor, and we do a lot of Zoom meetings. So sometimes there's no privacy for that, and that becomes a challenge for our household. But again, and then the mix with our neighbors and trying to make sure it blends really well with them. I don't know if you have any questions for me.
Is there any questions for the petitioner? Ms. George?
So with the addition over the garage, it sounds like you are talking about having two needs, which is a third bedroom and an area to work in. What exactly would over the garage space function as?
The room above the garage?
Yes.
A bedroom is a third bedroom.
That will be a bedroom, okay.
Mm-hmm. Third bedroom and a closet. There's a walk-in closet, and that's it. The breezeway space was mostly for, it's nice, the added benefit of a second entrance and a mudroom was coincidentally, but we mostly needed an access up there. So the staircase was really the reason for moving the garage over to create room for that breezeway entrance. It's kind of a nice added bonus to have the mud entrance. I don't know if you have small houses, but it's nice. But mostly we needed access up there. And the U-shaped stairway gets the landing up to the peak, so I didn't have to have two dormers. I don't want to have this overshadowing dormer. You know, one thing I can't stand is people have this nice little ranch and then this two-story house above the garage with another peak, and it's like it just doesn't look right. So we're trying to keep everything as low profile as possible. Just unobtrusive.
Any other questions? Mr. Gavin?
Just out of curiosity, I assume you looked at the possibility of adding on to the back, but the backyard looks so small that if you added onto the back of the house, you wouldn't have a backyard anymore.
You're right, right. And we enjoy the backyard considerably, especially with kids and in-tex pool. And yes, I do use it.
Any other questions? All right. Just again, we're short one person, so after we have public comment, I'll ask you if you want us to proceed or to delay till next month where we may have a full board or may not. But you need 5 to grant the variance.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone to speak for public comments on this case? Come forward, state your name.
I'm Eric Romaine.
You can wait till you get to the mic. It'd be easy.
I'm Eric Romaine at 823 Edgewood. If you pull up the map, I'm the house directly on the corner there. I would just like to say that not only do I have no objection to the height increase next to my lot, I actually love our block on Edgewood is full of craftsman style homes. The block on Pleasant is all the minimal traditional ranch style. He's doing a great job here, just kind of blending the two styles together. It's kind of an awkward lot that kind of really works with what he's trying to do. He's been very passionate about what he's trying to do. He's been telling me about it for the last 5 years, and I just want to express my full support.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone? All right, seeing none, we'll close public hearing. Would you like us to proceed, sir? Or would you like us to delay till next month?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Bring it to this side of the board. Is there any motions or comments? Mr. Klatt.
I'll make a motion to approve both variance requests.
And Ms. Robinson, I saw a second. Sorry.
That's fine.
Mr. Klatt.
Well, number one, I really appreciate you reaching out to your neighbors. Seems like you have great support. I know your property well. I apologize. I'm one of those soccer parents that sits out there, twice a week waiting for their child several times a week. So I apologize for that. So I know it well. But I think it's a great design. I think it's very logical, the placement, and I think it's very site sensitive. So I have no issue with the height. I think it's a great way to tuck it in, keeps it quaint, low scale, and it respects the surrounding properties. So I appreciate it.
Ms. Robinson, anything to add?
I agree, everything you say. I think that the hardship here are two things, really. It's the very odd shape of the lot. That's just kind of the essence of what we have to look at in this way as hardship. But another hardship, too, is that it's such a small two-bedroom house. I mean, in today's world, that is functional obsolescence. It's hard to live in that small amount of space. And if I go through all four things, A, B, C, D here, is the chapter's restrictions on reasonably prevent the owner from using. I think that's a true statement. Number B, that's going to improve the neighborhood. Here is what we're looking at. Number C, again, it's that statement is true. The plight of the landowner is due to unique circumstances of the property. That's true. It's just such a unique piece of. It's not, it's a triangle on a curve, no less. And the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having interest. That's also a true statement because that's the way the plot's platted. So, for that reason, I agree with the motion.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments? Ms. Sugan.
I'll just throw in that I appreciate how Mr. C has been concerned with how his neighbors will be affected by this, and the fact that he's keeping the ranch style on Pleasant and not going any higher than the houses that are two-story houses on Edgewood, I think is a great idea for this lot.
Any other comments?
I just want to remind the board that with the non-use variances, we're talking about the practical difficulties. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, well, I too will be in favor of this motion. I think the practical difficulties are there in this unique lot. Not having basically, it's a corner lot, but not on a true corner. It's at an angle. As well as the height. Practical difficulty in there is you've got what normally would be a garage here having a space on top of it, and they're trying very nicely to blend it in with the area and not go too high, as well as work within the space. So because of that, I don't have an issue. Anything else? All right. We'll move to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Again, unanimous. Motion carries. Congratulations, sir. Next up is case number 220310, 517 Elm Court. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This property is located on Elm Court. If you look at the aerial photograph on the screen, I think it'll give you an excellent perspective of the layout and the orientation of this lot in relation to things around it. There is a single-family home with a detached garage. Due to the orientation of the property, staff has applied particular setbacks, and I'll hover over them as we talk about them. An east front yard setback in the east front yard really fronts along the parking lot for the school. And perhaps the petitioner can give a little bit more insight as to what it used to front along. I know that parking lot was renovated several years ago, and it was a different circumstance prior. A west rear yard setback, so obviously opposite the front of the house, and side yard setbacks to the north and the south. And this is evident, or rather I should say this is consistent in how the department has applied the setbacks, because in 1988, a prior owner obtained a variance in order to construct the existing detached garage, and I'll hover over that. That detached garage is located in, again, what's been continuously defined as the front yard. But the petitioner wants to demolish that detached garage and construct a front entry attached garage with second story living space and conduct numerous other renovations to the house, and we can look at the drawings that they provided to give some greater clarity to the variance requests that they need. So if you bear with me, I can bring those up. The image on the left depicts the current condition, the detached garage in the front yard. The image on the right-hand side of the screen, that depicts that the petitioner wants to construct that front entry attached garage. And I'll start with a series of variance requests, and we'll start with the front entry attached garage. The zoning ordinance allows for a garage to be, a front entry attached garage to be no more than 50% of the front facade, or the front total width of the house. And in this case, the proposed attached garage is 52.9%. So it's greater than 50%. They're seeking that slight difference of the variance request to 2.9%. There's also provision in the zoning ordinance which states that a garage can project no more than 7 feet from the ground, from the nearest point of ground floor living space. So meaning that it's trying to prevent this exact circumstance. We'll call it the bull nose or the front nose garage that sticks way out in front of the living space. And so the petitioner is seeking a variance in order to have that design. They're seeking some variances from some of those distances. And the front yard is depicted in the hatched line that I'm hovering over. To the nearest point of living space, which is the second floor, living space above the proposed attached garage, that setback, that distance is 51.2 feet. And the zoning ordinance states that a house cannot have, measured to the nearest point of living space, a house cannot have a setback greater than 50 feet. Now, if we go back and we look at the existing survey, it's measuring a distance of 78.2 feet to the existing house. That proposed front yard garage brings the house closer into compliance with the maximum allowable front yard setback of 50, but it doesn't gain it. So they're seeking a variance from that as well. And obviously the existing house is non-conforming. They're looking to expand it in a non-conforming manner. And lastly, I will point out that there is a large concrete pad in front of the attached garage and a small gravel portion or gravel drive that extends to the dirt or gravel street that is Elm Court. The ordinance requires that all private driveways be a hard surface concrete, asphalt, porous pavers, something of that nature. So while their proposal gains that mostly, it does have that segment that's gravel. I will scroll to the existing photographs to give you an idea of what the current condition looks like. And the current driveway is is dirt or gravel. It gives you an understanding of how far setback the existing house is and the existing non-conforming garage that's in the front yard right now. And if you have any questions, I can answer it. I will point out that we did receive 2 written comments, and those are included at the end of your materials that are online.
Okay. Is there any questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, seeing none. Is the petitioner present? If so, please come forward, state your name.
I'm Trina LaTulip. My husband Brian really wanted to be here today, but he got the stomach flu, so he threw it on me to present tonight. So I'm just going to read what he was planning to say. He's kind of been dealing with the whole construction process, so he knows it a little better than I do, but I'm going to try to do my best. So this is what he wrote. Hi, I'm Brian. I've lived at 517 for 14 years. My wife and I got married in 2019 and had a baby girl in 2020. We plan on having more kids and would love to stay in Royal Oak. My wife grew up in Royal Oak and we think it's a really great community. We decided to take the equity out of our house and would like to add an addition to our house, as you can see from the slides. Unfortunately, buying a new, bigger house in our neighborhood seems a little out of our reach these days, so that's why we'd like to add on to our house. We really love our lot at 517. It is very unique, and what you don't see is the backyard, which is actually really nice. There's a big shade tree, a couple apple trees. It's a truly unique property, and we love that, but we want to try and use it a little more aesthetically pleasing and better functionality. We hired a local architect from our neighborhood, Joel, owner of DMET. They presented us with a couple different options, but we both agreed that this uses the land and the current house on the inside with the walls and the existing structures the best, so as to cut down on costs. Right now, when you pull up to our house, as you can see, you mostly see our garage and the adjoining lot, which are the duplexes. They're apartments. I mean, they look nice, but our current garage is detached and sits in front of our house. It was put there legally in 1988 when the previous owners were granted a variance to construct it. From what we know, Elm Court used to be an actual court, and when Dondero added the pool on, they bought the land that is the parking lot now. There used to be 5 houses on Elm Court, all facing like a circle drive right there. So that's kind of where we kind of escaped the parking lot, but that's why our lot kind of has that entrance. Let's see, we'd like to rebuild it, tear it down, build it to the north, and attach it to the house. This accomplishes a few things that are appealing to us while not changing much for our neighbors. By moving it, it opens up the south side of our house for an addition with a sight line that's not our garage, back of our garage. That will be our future family room and kitchen. When you pull up Elm Court currently, or you will finally be able to see our house first. So, you know, you can turn and you'll see our garage on the one side and you'll see our house. It will also help to provide some separation between the apartments to the north, that duplex there, and make us feel more a part of the single-family neighborhood to the south of us. It will also help give us room above for an additional bedroom and a bonus room. With regard to the variances, everything we're asking to do will bring our non-conforming house a little closer to conforming. Our garage currently sits 32 feet in front of our house. It will drop that to 22 feet. As for the gravel request, Elm Court is a pretty unmaintained gravel road, and it just makes financial sense to partly continue that up to a concrete pad. Yeah, it's a pretty unique piece of property, and we hope you guys will agree. Also, looking at the pictures, our architect didn't want to take the roof off and just make it a 2-story house with a roof even higher than that. He wanted to keep kind of the feel of a cottagey house, something with some character. So yeah, any questions?
Is there any questions for the petitioner? Mr. Reddy?
The 2 comments that we received from neighbors were mostly concerned with the duration and noise. Have you taken notice of those?
Yeah, it's Gina and
comments?
Kathy. We're friends with them. Our dogs play in the backyard together. Yeah, they're only concerned with construction times, and we took out the equity. We have the money ready. We plan to start and continue working on it until it's finished. So.
Okay, and you don't have any issue with what they've said? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for the petitioner? All right. As a reminder, we're down 1 person. You need 5 people to vote in favor. So after public comment, I'll ask you if you want us to proceed or to hold off to next month when we might have a full board.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak on this case? All right. Please come forward and state your name.
Yes, I am Dave Latulip, Brian and Brian's dad, Trina's father-in-law. I own the property to the north. The apartments are duplexes. And this will help. I have no issue with what they're doing. And this will help us with separation and give both parties more privacy. Because right now they're in their front yard and they're like in the duplex's front yard. So this will help move their front yard more to the south and make things more appealing for everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none. Would you like us to proceed? Okay. We'll pull to this side of the board. Any comments or motions? Mr. Gavin?
I move to approve the variances as requested.
Okay, is there a second? Mr. Klett seconds. Mr. Gavin?
It's just a really interesting, unique property that's tucked away in a back corner that I wasn't aware even existed, you know? And it's just, there's, like, I think the proposed renovations are, while I understand that, you know, the point of the ordinance, it just works well for this property, and based on what I'm seeing in some of the survey, it looks like the architect did their best to design within the building envelope without having to encroach on any of the side yard setbacks. Because I think, like, yes, the garage could have been shifted over a little bit or something like that, and it would have maybe brought it down to less of a percentage of the total frontage of the property, you know, or the frontage of the house. But I think it would then require a variance on a side yard setback. You know, it's just, I think they did a really good job of working with the lot that they had in this weird and unique space, and I think it works quite well. So overall, you know, going to the factors for the non-use variances, the chapter's restrictions would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose. I agree on that one, because I feel like this is, you know, it's one of the better designs that you could come up with for this piece of property. The variance will do substantial justice to the applicant and to neighboring property owners, and it will, and we've gotten letters of support and testimony from the apartment's owner. the plight of the landowners due to the unique circumstances of the property. I think that is definitely the case here. And that the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. And no, it's not. This clearly dates from a long time ago. So given all those factors, I think the variances as requested are reasonable, and given that the court is itself gravel, I think having a gravel extension driveway is not a problem at all. So, there you go.
Mr. Clyde, anything to add?
I think Mr. Gavin summed it up well. It's practical difficulty exists due to the unique setting, unique situation with the middle school parking lot being right there. If this was a standard lot in a standard subdivision with standard uniform frontage, we might take more objection to the garage placement or the garage size. But in this case, I think it helps to serve as a buffer from the middle school and preserves your backyard. And same comment about the gravel road. It's hard to impose a concrete driveway when there's a gravel road leading to that driveway. So, great design.
Any other comments? Ms. Zukin?
I think the purpose of the 50% of the front of the house not being garage is so that when people drive by, they don't think they're in an alley. This isn't an alley. It's extremely unique. It took me 2 tries to even find it, and nobody's going to see the garage. And I think it's a great use of that space.
Any other comments? I too will be in favor of this. The practicality difficulty is definitely the unique lot and its unique location. For the only way to meet some of these requirements of like the front yard setback is to totally demolish what you've got there to bring it forward, or you would lose the garage and everything to bring it all the way forward to only 35 feet off. I mean, that seems impractical in that case. And you having a 2-car garage, if you were to not have it so much in the front, you'd have to put in the back, which would lose that backyard to keep the 2-car garage. So that's difficulty in itself. And you're going down to a less wide garage on your new proposal versus what you have there already. And as you stated, you're bringing it closer to the house and making it a better situation. So in that case, I think you're making a horrible non-conforming situation, just like you said, a little bit better, which is we're always trying to prevent more problems than, and you're helping create less problems. So because of that, I have no problem with voting in favor. All right, any other comments? All right, we'll move to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye. Opposed? All right, seeing none, also it carries unanimously. Congratulations. Move on to case number 220311, 400 East Lincoln, whenever you are ready, Mr. Murphy.
This subject property is located just down the street on East Lincoln. It's in the city's mixed-use 1 zoning district, and it allows for a variety of permitted and special land uses ranging from office, professional office, medical office, religious institutions, veterinary clinics, daycares, single-family homes, duplexes, and multifamily homes. It does not allow for restaurants, and that's what the petitioner is proposing. So they are seeking a use variance in order to allow them to use the property for a restaurant. They can better describe their business operation. We can certainly look at the floor plan. You can tell based on the aerial photograph and the site photographs that the building is divided into 6 equal units of about 1,400 square feet each. And the only tenant space that is occupied at this point in time is the southern tenant space. And the petitioner is proposing to occupy the northern tenant space, or the tenant space closest to Lincoln. And I'll jump to their floor plan, and we can look at what they're proposing. They operate a soft serve ice cream business, and they are proposing to use the tenant space in the manner depicted on the screen, which would be for the storage of their ice cream truck and some tables and chairs to allow petitioners to be on the inside. They're not proposing any outdoor seating, and they are not proposing a service window at the facade. So anyone that wants ice cream would need to come inside the building.
Okay.
Each of the tenant spaces was approved at a parking ratio of 1 to 4, 1 parking space per 400 square feet of usable area. So any use that's allowed in that zoning district at that calculation, or and the petitioner is looking to establish their business, which we classify as a restaurant, which requires 1 parking space per 65 square feet. So much more intensive in terms of required amount of off-street parking. The petitioner is therefore seeking a variance because the site currently has sufficient parking at that 1 to 400 square foot calculation. By occupying the 1,400 square foot tenant space with a restaurant use, it increases the required amount of parking which they do not have on site. And so the petitioner is here to not only seek a use variance, but to seek a variance from the minimum required parking. And we did not receive any written comments for your review for this case.
Okay. And no calling comments either?
We don't have calling anymore.
Okay.
But people can email staff, and we then attach that to the end of our report. And we did not receive any for this particular case.
Okay. Is there any questions for Mr. Murphy? Ms. Hukin?
So the 20 spaces would be just for that, the ice cream place? It's not the whole building?
Well, let me double check the report. The restaurant would require 19 spaces, and each of the other spaces was approved at a use that requires no more than 3. So if this northern tenant space, which is shaded, which they're looking to occupy and shaded in the darker, in the magenta, if it came in with a use, an allowable use, and that use did not require more than 3 parking spaces, staff would more than likely provide an administrative approval. The same thing can be said for all the other vacant tenant spaces.
Okay, then one other question. I'm not sure if you know this off the top of your head, but is WROK mixed use 2 or a mixed use 1?
If I remember correctly, when WROK originally went into that location, they did go for a rezoning. And because a brewery, which was the dominant use of that building, it did not allow for that type of use. So they did rezone the property, if I remember correctly, to an industrial use with an ancillary tasting room. And it's since been vacant. Hopefully it's operational at some point by the new user.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Murphy?
I will point out that several properties in 2001 were rezoned. And this was one of the sites that was rezoned to mixed use 1. If memory serves me correctly, it had a light industrial zoning designation prior, and it was approved to be rezoned to allow for different uses.
I do have a quick one for you. In this case, since staff has seen this as a restaurant case, if we approve this, would it be approved for any restaurant that could come in here, or just a similar use of an ice cream?
No, we wouldn't allow any type of restaurant as long as it was the same usable floor area calculation. It wouldn't matter whether it was ice cream or any other type of food item. We would have administrated. If you approve this, we would administratively approve any type of restaurant operation.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, if the petitioner is present, would you please come forward and state your name and case? Hello.
Kyle Hunt.
I'm Leah Hunt. Yes, and we own Huddles Officer.
We opened our first location in downtown Detroit in August of 2019. And then this past year, excuse me, I've had a tickle in my throat since I sat down. We opened a second location in the West Village neighborhood of Detroit in June of 2021. So this will be our third location. We really enjoy the Royal Oak community and have had a lot of support for our business from Royal Oak and the neighboring areas, and we've been wanting to just kind of expand this way. We think it's a great use for the neighborhood. A lot of folks, as far as having our location in West Village, we have most of our folks walk or ride their bikes to get ice cream. And every transaction at our ice cream windows is usually about a minute on average, so folks aren't there for a very long time. And we also have one employee at all of our locations, so there'd only need to be one employee.
Any questions for the petitioner? Ms. Hook and then Mr. Moore.
What are you planning to have for your hours of operation?
Probably definitely starting at noon and ending about 8 p.m. would be the end time.
And are you going to be year-round?
Likely not. We will probably close for the winter. We have in our game plan in this space could potentially do some small events for like birthday parties or something in the winter time just to keep afloat, but likely would slow down operations in the winter.
And are you serving the ice cream from the truck inside?
Yeah. That's the concept is we had seen a truck in California. It's a coffee shop and they serve right from the window in the truck. So you walk in through the garage door and just serve from there. The truck is a 1970s Good Humor truck. It runs well, but I am always stressed when he's driving it to events. So this was our way to put it in one spot for good use. It won't have to move, and it can be a good, useful part of our business because it is part of our brand. Its name is Tanjan, and a lot of folks know it.
Okay. Mr. Moore?
I just wanted to know more about the truck being inside and the unique door. I mean, it seems like this was kind of built around that concept, but thank you for explaining that because it was really interesting as to the truck's going to be inside where the serving area is. Okay.
Yeah. So when we were looking for a location, we wanted a garage door to be able to open so that you can just walk into the truck and out.
Thanks.
Mr. Reddy?
So I have a concern regarding the first requirement of a use variance that the property could not be reasonably used for the purposes permitted in the zone. I saw in your written response that you were basing that off of the fact that the offices haven't been leased since 2019, but there have been a lot of disruption since 2019. Do you have any more arguments to make on that score?
Just in general, they haven't been leased since at least 2019. I hadn't looked back further than that. So I know they've been unoccupied for a while. So our argument there was just to fill in a space that's within neighborhoods, bringing ice cream there seemed to make sense. But
other questions? Mr. Gavin?
Did you have any conversations or anything with neighboring property owners, especially about parking? I mean, I live on Lincoln, so I know that area pretty well.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be a problem, but I'm just wondering if you reached out.
Right. I reached out to the new tenant where the WROK spot would be. Good friends of ours, not speaking about parking because I think they'll have to occupy all their spaces when they open. And then there's one medical facility right between us. It does have a barrier between it, but I have not spoke to them about.
Okay. I guess I was thinking more about the residential properties right across the street because that's where the street parking is.
Right.
And if there are people parking, they're going to be parking in front of them.
Right.
For sure.
No, I have not.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, just to remind you, we don't have a full board, and on this case, you need 6 affirmative for the use variance part of it. So after we do public hearing, if you want us to delay 1 month to see if you get a full board, and we might not, you can do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this case? All right, seeing none, would you like us to proceed or would you like us to delay? Proceed. Okay. We'll bring it to the side of the board. Any comments or motions? Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I think this is a really unique use of a space that is empty. And I'm not really concerned about the parking. I live in this area, and I personally feel like most of their traffic is going to come there on foot or by bike from the neighborhood. There's neighborhoods surrounding there. I'm not as convinced that it would be something that multitudes of cars are going to come to and park all over the neighborhood. Yeah, that's just my comments for now.
Comments or motions? I know personally for a comment, although I don't oppose to theirs, I'm worried about passing the motion and it being, allowing another restaurant to come in its place afterwards and having that amount of parking already allowed. And who knows what that does to possibly renting out the other tenants, but yes.
So the space that they're occupying is just the front space, and if I heard Mr. Murphy correctly, as long as it was the same usable space, like if they weren't combining units, they would have to come back here. But if it was just the front one, I mean, I don't think that that's a large space to be anything other than a takeout or quick serve kind of a space as far as interior dining and stuff like that. So.
Any other comments or is there a motion? Mr. Gavin?
I'll move to approve the variance as requested.
Is there a second? Mr. Moore seconds. Mr. Gavin?
Just overall, I think it's a really unique idea. I really like it. I mean, I also personally would like the idea of walking down there and getting custard myself. But I think it will serve the neighborhood well. There's really not much in that area that's quite walkable, and especially once WROK went away. But this is an entirely different type of use. Currently, if you want something and you want to walk, you got to walk all the way to gyms from that area. So. So going through the factors that the property could not be reasonably used for purposes permitted in that zone, I think the vacancy argument is a great argument. It's still that there hasn't been anything in there for as long as I've been living in my house. The appeal results from unique circumstances peculiar to the property and not in general neighborhood conditions. I think that is true. The use requested by the variance would not alter the essential characteristics of the area. That is true. The alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. That's true. And the use will preserve a substantial property right possessed by other property owners in the same zone. That is also true. With respect to the parking, it would unreasonably prevent the owner from using it for a permitted purpose. The variance will do substantial justice to the applicant. That is true, as well as other property owners in the district. And I agree with Mr. Moore's comment. I don't think the parking is going to be a large issue in there. I think it's going to be mostly walkers. A lesser relaxation would not, than that requested would not give substantial relief to the owner of the property or be more consistent with justice to the other property owners. I think the requested variance is the bare minimum that they need for the parking, so I don't think there's anything more we can do there. The plight of the landowner is due to unique circumstances of the property, and I think that mostly relates to the zoning. And then the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. That's also true. So.
Mr. Moore?
No, that covers it.
Okay. Any other comments? Ms. Hugan?
I'll just throw in that we are encouraging the walkability of our neighborhoods. And I see people going down Lincoln all the time to take part in downtown events. So I see this as mostly being walk-in people. And on a biased note, I plan all my trips to Detroit based on when Huddle opens. So I'll make sure I get some ice cream far enough in advance of dinner to enjoy it. So I would really welcome them to the neighborhood.
Any other comments? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, once again, carries unanimously.
We're on a roll tonight.
Let's see if we can break it or keep it up. We'll do one and two on this last one. 220312, 1320 North Campbell Road.
This site's located at the intersection of Campbell and Bel Air. It's a one-story building, a professional office building that the petitioner, or rather the property owner, recently did an extensive amount of renovations to. And they expanded a warehouse building and converted another building into self-storage. It has numerous, the professional office building has numerous tenant suites occupied by a variety of professional and service businesses. And the petitioner is proposing to occupy one of those tenant spaces, and it's a 165 square foot tenant space to perform microblading or / tattooing services. They provided a supplemental written statement to give you an overview of their proposed business operation, but there is, under the state governing act for body art facilities, there's a state license process, and the state regards services that provide tattooing, branding, body piercing. Under the state act, the tattooing includes cosmetic makeup, permanent makeup, or microblading, and it's the same process as a traditional tattoo establishment in that it provides an indelible mark under the skin, under the pigment of the skin. And the worst example I always point to when we get these inquiries is that the state act doesn't differentiate between issuing a license to a microblading facility or a tattoo establishment, whether someone's applying permanent eyebrows or whatever that thing is on the side of Mike Tyson's face. It's just the same generic process, same state license. So we do identify that as an adult business or an adult commercial enterprise. And adult uses are not special uses or permitted uses in the general industrial zoning district. And this site is in the general industrial zoning district. So the petitioner is seeking a use variance in order to operate their type of establishment. We do apply the standards for an adult use to this based on their request. One of the standards is that it be a certain distance from uses such, it'll be in this particular case, the one that they're not compliant with is 1,000 feet from school, library, park, playground, daycare, religious institution. And as you can see on the map and that we provided in the report on the screen, that there is an elementary school directly across the street on Campbell. And again, we apply those standards as if you grant the use variance, then they would still need to meet the distance requirements. Just like if they found an appropriate location in the general business zoning district where it is a permitted use, they would have to meet those distance requirements in that specific zoning district, which it is allowed as a special land use. So they're seeking the distance, the use variance, and the distance variance from the distance requirement as well. The buffer on the map shows 1,000 feet and also shows 150 feet. And the ordinance says that it cannot be within 150 feet from nearby single-family residential, and it certainly isn't because this is an industrial area. We did not receive any written comments from our public notice for you to review tonight, and I can answer any questions that you might have prior to the petitioner's presentation.
Mr. Moore.
This is going to really put you on the spot here, but we are talking about permanent makeup here, and in the petitioner's business plan, she is noting that it's semi-permanent makeup. What is the difference?
I would let the petitioner provide a clear description on that, I think is appropriate.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, seeing none, if the petitioner is present, you may come forward and state your name for the record.
Hi, thank you for seeing us. My name is Sandra Bazo, and I'll be running the suite. This is
Hi, my name is Christian Groth, and I'm the building owner at 1320 North Campbell.
to answer your question, the difference between semi-permanent and permanent is we use a different machine. The machine for the permanent tattoo is a lot beefier. The needle goes in a lot deeper. It goes right into to the dermis, the middle layer of your skin, and when it deposits the ink, it's permanent. What I do, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. I've never been on a microphone. It's all right. I feel like singing. What I use is this little, I brought my pen with me just to show you what it is. I don't know if you've ever seen a traditional tattoo gun. It's square, it's bigger, it's loud. This is what I use. And the needle, of course, I thought I brought a needle. It just attaches here, and it just goes into the upper layer of the skin. So it lasts probably 6 to 18 months, just depending on the person, their skin type, how often they wash, stuff like that. But that's the difference. So I don't do anything permanent. And I would just be doing lips. It's called lip blushing. It just adds, I brought a picture, but the picture doesn't really do it justice. I pulled it off the internet, but this is like a before and an after of what I'd be doing. It's called lip blushing. It's relatively new to this area. It's been around for a long time, but newer in this area.
There's a couple of quick comments I wanted to say also. We started construction on this building on Campbell Road just prior to COVID, and renting office space during COVID and post-COVID has definitely been a challenge. Currently, I believe we're at just less than 50% occupied, and I think we, did a nice job on this building. Also, for the petitioner, her suite is beautiful. In terms of the proximity to the elementary school, obviously she's not even remotely advertising her service to any child or teenager or anything like that. It's not even facing Campbell Road. You'd have to come into our parking lot, go to the very end of the parking lot is where her particular suite is located. And if I may speak for her also, it is very difficult for a business such as hers to find a space that has reasonable rent. We are charging her $525 a month, and all of you are very familiar with prices in Royal Oak. You really just can't find that for a nice, decent office space. So, we hope as the building owners that you also see that some of these requirements appear to be somewhat archaic. And I know Royal Oak is very progressive, and I think we do so much, great in the city that hopefully we can also see that her business really has very little to do with tattooing in the traditional sense.
Yeah, we don't have any exterior signage, so no one even knows that I'm there unless my client, only my clients, they contact me directly. I'm the only one working there. I did bring some pictures, a couple of pictures of what the suite. What happened was when I applied for the license, that's when I realized that I had to come before the city. So I had already put together the suite. I have some pictures if you'd like to take a look, just to show you that it's not like a, you know, a parlor. And also, it was difficult to find a spot because there's so many requirements as far as you can't have any kind of acoustical tiles on the ceiling. Everything has to be wiped. You have to be able to wipe everything down. Nothing can, if there's any kind of blood splatter out anywhere, it can't go into any kind of crevices. The floors have to be hard, either a vinyl, wood. No, I don't think you can have wood, vinyl or cement flooring. And this just fit the bill. I mean, everything was just perfect.
We have concrete flooring for her that's been polished. So.
And then the open ceilings.
Is there any questions for the petitioner? Mr. Moore?
Yeah.
So I'm still looking at this Public Act 375. So are you licensed the same as somebody that would do tattooing? Because I'm looking at this and it says permanent, but it sounds like what you're doing does eventually go away.
Well, yeah, same with microblading. That's not permanent. That's semi-permanent also. And in Michigan, the actual artist doesn't have to be licensed, only the facility does. But I did go through a training and I am certified. I'm also a former hair salon owner, so I have a state cosmetology license. Yeah, it's kind of odd, but you can hire anyone off the street to do tattoos. It just the facility is the one that has to be licensed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right. Just a reminder, we're down one person, so we need 5 affirmative votes. So after we have public comment, I'll ask you if you want us to proceed or to wait till next month.
All right, thank you.
Oh, sorry, 6. Thank you for catching me on that one. I forgot about that. You need 6, but...
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so public comment. Is there anyone here to speak on this case? Please come forward and state your name for the record.
My name is Miss Joa.
Oh, wait till you get to the mic there.
My name is Miss Joa. I have a property 1809. I thought this was going to be like a tattoo parlor, but it sounds pretty innocent in my eyes, so I support it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right. Looks like that's all for the public comment because there's no other public left. Would you like us to proceed or would you like us to hold up? I would like you to proceed. Okay, thank you. We'll bring it to this side of the board. Comments and or motions? Ms. Zukin.
Just a comment. We've always, every case that's come before us for microblading, we do pass. And we have all agreed that the ordinance as it stands is archaic and it doesn't take into account these new procedures. So I won't have a problem with approving this one.
Is there a motion? Mr. Gavin, go for it.
I echo Ms. Zukin's comments 100%, and I move to approve the variances as requested.
Is there a second? Mr. Moore for the second. Beats Mr. Klatt. Go ahead, Mr. Gavin.
Yeah, it's you know, in my eyes, this is, you know, it's more of a beauty parlor type use. So, you know, given that, you know, going through the factors, the property could not be reasonably used for the purposes permitted in that zone. I think my issue with that stems more from the fact that it's a beauty use and it's not what the ordinance was designed for in the first place. But yes, that one I think it cannot be reasonably used for purposes permitted in the zone. The appeal results from unique circumstances peculiar to the property and not in general neighborhood conditions. I think that's true. The use requested by the variance would not alter the essential characteristics of the area. That is true. The alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. That is true. And that the use will preserve a substantial property right possessed by other property owners in the same zone. That is true, and we even have testimonial evidence to that from a neighboring property owner. So with that, the non-use variance, sorry about that, I almost forgot. The non-use variance in terms of the distances, this chapter's restrictions unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose. That is true, as stated. The variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to other property owners in the district. Both of those are true. lesser relaxation than that requested would not give a substantial relief to the owner of the property or be more consistent with justice to other property owners. That is true. If we don't grant this variance, she can't operate. The plight of the landowner is due to the unique circumstances of the property. That's kind of inapplicable, but true. And then the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. True.
Okay, Mr. Moore, anything to add?
No, nothing further.
Any other comments? I'll throw in my 2 cents. I think, although I understand why the zone is out there to prevent adult-oriented uses in industrial areas, because if it wasn't there, then something that was away from a religious institution could all of a sudden come up. So this is sort of like that buffer to get them to come before us to make sure that what they're doing is acceptable. So in this case, the hardship is, or practical difficulty I should say, is theirs isn't a true tattooing place, it's more of a beauty place. So in which case that I don't have a problem with that kind of use in this area or any area in Royal Oak, because it's temporary and it's a beauty salon type item, as we've previously discussed many times as it's come before us. So because of that, I don't have a problem with it, so I'll be in support of the motion too. All right, if there's no other comments, we'll move to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye. Opposed? All right, congratulations, you got approved, and we went for a full night with all unanimous ones. All right.
We got one more motion yet.
If we're not unanimous on that.
Yeah, come on. Who's gonna?
Thank you.
Other combo is like Shark Tank and Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Other business, I don't see any. Nope. And there's none. General public comment, is there any? Looks like the room is emptying, so. Oh, by the way, sir, love the job that you've done on renovating the building.
Looks
since
nice.
It looks a lot nicer than it
Top-notch.
was. So thank you very much. It's cleaned it up a lot on there.
Looks good.
Thank you. All right. So if there's no other comments, mystery motion, who wants to grab it? Mr. Moore, I saw first. I'll give it to Ms.
Motion to
Zukin for the
adjourn.
second.
Yep.
Who's second?
Ms. Zukin.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Ms. Zukin. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Hey,
I half expected someone to say
We're done.
nay. Just
That was well.